We have some gems around the state when it comes to parks and historic homes, plus a little irrigation ditch with a big impact, and a new hotel program that is helping to cut down on crime and homelessness. We have some history, the great outdoors, and lots more in this edition of Connected Colorado. Hello everyone, I'm Gary Shapiro and I'm happy to be your new host of Connected Colorado. We are here at the Broomfield Depot Museum and we'll tell you more about this place in just a little bit. But first to Arvada for the annual Kids Fishing Contest.
Today is our 2023 Kids Fishing Tournament in the city of Arvada Reservoir.
They said they stocked this reservoir with 6,000 fish last month. I just need a school of fish to go by and one of them be like, I think I'm gonna eat that.
A lot of pools in the water right now though.
It's great to see actually a lot of the families come out together, and I think it's a great bonding experience. You know, a lot of us that have fished when we were kids, you know, we get a lot of memories of this event.
We placed third last year, got a trophy, so we're hoping to do a little better this year.
Trout, rainbow trout.
Probably could have been better, but it is what it is. About 11 o'clock, we stop our fishing and then we'll weigh all the fish.
0.26. 0.26? 0.26.
And we will have trophies and prizes available. So after we award the winners, we will have about 51 raffle prizes.
Fishing for me it's relaxing. I feel like it's a good sport. It takes a lot of patience. It's a fun thing to do with my son.
It is always a great time to visit your local park, and the city of Aurora has more than 100 of them. They're all unique. But what goes into making these places to play?
The city itself is old enough to where we have parks that are 50 plus years old. We also have brand new parks that are coming online, almost every year. Hi, I'm Trent Woolley, and I'm a senior landscape architect. The division I work in is called Planning, Design, and Construction. It's exactly like it sounds. So we are in charge of planning new parks, trails, open spaces. We would look at what's there currently, talk to the public to find out what they might like to change in that park, and then start looking at how we can fit certain things in. We are at Havana Heights Park in Aurora. This park was originally built in 1985, and the city has recently decided to renovate the playground in this park. We took about a 30-year-old playground and we're updating that. Where we're standing currently was a basketball court at one time. And it is kind of along the Ninja Warrior style. And I think the biggest aspect that it adds to maybe your workout or just for fun, you can approach it however your imagination really kind of drives you. The renovation of the playground took us almost 6 months. We started in December of last year, and the park is now complete. So as with all of our parks projects, whether it's an open space or in a park like this, our goal is to make sure that we have a safe space, an inclusive space, and a place where everyone can come and have fun.
And you can learn more about Aurora's 103 city parks by going to its website. We are back here at the Broomfield Depot Museum now with David Allison. David, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, glad you're here today.
Talk a little bit about this place.
Sure, so the Broomfield Depot was built in 1909. It was originally down at a different location at 120th and 287, and it served the community of Broomfield, a very small agricultural community, never more than 200 people until the 1950s. And of course it was freight as well as passengers coming through here. The station agent who worked here also lived here, so the other side of this building is kind of the living quarters for the station agent and his family.
It must have been a chore moving it from that location to this location.
It absolutely was, and we're so glad that they did. It was one of those things, the railroad was not using the building anymore, and so they were going to tear it down. Some citizens came together. They decided, let's save this building, move it to this new place here on Depot Hill where it is today. And yeah, they actually picked it up and put it on a flatbed truck and just hauled it right up here. So 1976.
Now, I know from doing a story on this place when I worked for local TV that there is a legend that is actually buried here. Talk about that.
Well, there is. Shep, the turnpike dog, is probably the most famous resident of Broomfield, and Shep's grave is actually just right out here. It used to be by the Denver-Boulder Turnpike, which is now US 36, of course. Shep was moved here kind of to preserve the grave as they were expanding the road, and he still rests happily there with all the good memories that people have from stopping, paying their money, and giving a little treat to Shep, or maybe some money for his vet bills, that sort of thing. So wonderful story, and he's still out here.
He is as famous as the Turnpike, I believe.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the Colorado Department of Transportation has a mascot, and that is Shep. So
I love that. All right, talk a little bit about the honey house.
yeah, so the honey house is recently restored. The Crawford family had around 1,000 beehives at one point in their operation. So it was a fairly large honey operation, and they used that building to process the honey, to make sure that it was in jars and bottles, and then they would use that to kind of distribute throughout the state.
There is an interesting story I know about how Broomfield got its name, and a lot of people probably don't know that story.
Absolutely. I think the best scenario for the name, there are a number of theories out there, but probably the most likely and also the best story is that it was named after broom corn. And broom corn is a crop that many people thought grew around here at the time. This is like the 1880s, 1890s. And so they saw this broom corn growing up in the fields and thought, let's just name it after that crop, and which is exactly what they did.
A lot of people ask me, is Broomfield named after brooms? But it is the crop, right?
Yes, and broom corn though is used to make brooms. So there is a connection there with brooms, and broom corn is still used for those very traditional brooms today. So
There is a history in Broomfield that a lot of people don't know. It's not especially a diverse community over the years, but that is changing, and it's changing here, right?
Yeah, so the history of Broomfield, I think, is fascinating for a couple of reasons. One is, the cities that are north of us here are primarily coal mining communities: Lafayette, Louisville, Superior, whereas Broomfield and then Longmont are agricultural communities. And that story, I think, is an interesting one. There's no coal under the ground, so what does this community need to do? Well, it's agriculture. But then that changed when the suburb of Broomfield, called Broomfield Heights, really got going in the 1950s. And so in 1955, the Broomfield Heights opened, and Broomfield quickly grew from a town of 200 to almost 6,000 by 1960. And that growth and that development continues to this day, for sure.
David, talk a little bit about what this museum means to people and what they can see when they get here.
This museum, I think, because it is really the only museum about Broomfield's history, what we try to do is put this place in the context of Colorado history and some of the larger trends that are happening in our state. It really is a wonderful place to come. We have great activities for children. We have school groups that come here as well. Of course, the newly renovated Honey House both talks about modern beekeeping and the biology of bees, as well as the Crawford family. So tries to bring the history into the present and hopefully forge a new path forward in the future.
It's pretty cool, I gotta tell you. When can people visit this place?
We're open right now on Saturdays from 11 to 4, but we also have special hours for groups as well as school tours, especially starting up this fall. That'll be a really exciting time for us.
And they just can contact you how?
Absolutely, yes. So contact our website, Depot Museum, at broomfield.org, and that'll be the best place to do that.
David, thanks for inviting us.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gary.
Okay. We are in the Honey House that David was talking about at the Broomfield Depot Museum. It's a pretty cool place. You should come visit. Coming up, the Stonehawker Farmhouse in North Glen celebrated 120th birthday this year, and they held an open house.
The farmhouse was actually created or built, started to be built in the late 1800s and completed about 1903. It is the only farmhouse in the city of North Glen, and it is made of brick, so it is actually on its permanent and only foundation it's ever had. So this is actually a Queen Anne style, which is pretty typical of the 1900s. The hallmarks of the Queen Anne style would be the wraparound porch, the soffits, the soft brick, and just the elegant style that they had in those days. The interior of the farmhouse is pretty unique. We have actually closets in this house, which typically farmhouses did not have, just because they taxed every room in the house, and closets in those days were actually considered rooms. And so that's why they did not have closets. You would see armoires in there. In this particular house, we have a living room, a dining room, the kitchen that we're in. The electricity came in the late 1920s, early 30s. The house did not have bathrooms. What they had were outhouses in the time. And there are 5 bedrooms in this house. The community has just come together and has donated fixtures that are hanging from the ceiling, the beds, furnishings, clothing, all types of things. We have installed a barn, and inside the barn we have a thrasher, a 1939 fire truck. We've got Carl's Dairies milk wagon in there. The most unique piece in the house is an 1877 grand piano that has been donated to us by a family that lived in North Glen. And we utilize it in all of our events, but always at old-fashioned Christmas, the first weekend of December. And we have it open for 2 days and sell different items. And, you know, and it's kind of a fundraiser. We have had weddings here, and you know, it just depends on who reaches out to us. So we're hoping at some time to actually build a barn on the property and actually open it up for venues, you know, where people can actually rent it. As a whole, the Historic Commission values the assets and the history of the city. And so this was something before the city was even established in 1969. It's here, and it's loved. I mean, and we're willing to, and the city is willing to open it up for people to come in, tour, and enjoy.
When we return, tackling homelessness and crime, art in the cemetery, another historic farmhouse, and the Littleton City Ditch.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. He sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. Basically, he had to relearn everything. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Being outdoors is great unless you live there. Coming up, a new hotel licensing program in Wheat Ridge that is trying to reduce homelessness and crime.
Disorder, drug dealing, violence, the Wheat Ridge PD gets all types of calls, and more than 10% of those 43,000 calls for service a year come from one area in the city.
Police department!
The I-70 and Kipling corridor. I'm Amanda Harrison with the City of Wheat Ridge, here to share how our new hotel licensing program is fighting crime while tackling homelessness.
So my very first call for service was at a hotel where police had located a homicide suspect, called for him to come out, and ultimately had to engage in the use of deadly force as this suspect confronted them with a gun. So that was my introduction to the hotels, and really from there it's been a lot of work to try and make sure that we provide support to the hotels and that the hotels look to us to give them guidance on how to clean up some of the issues that are in those hotels.
As the issues with the hotels along I-70 and Kipling grew, residents began reaching out to their council members with concerns over criminal activity, overall safety, debris, and property devaluation. In response, the City of Wheat Ridge took a holistic approach by enacting a hotel licensing program that connects guests who want permanent housing solutions with resources, improves living conditions in the hotels, and reduces crime.
So we're asking them to reinvest in the community through a security plan. That may be cameras, that may be a key card system, that may be through actually hiring security, and certainly the way they register their customers is part of that.
Many properties have already complied. For example, the Holiday Inn has hired a security guard to patrol at night, and the Apple Inn and Suites installed new lighting along with a camera system. And according to its general manager, Nicholas Chin, the investment is paying off.
We had like a couple of auto burglary in our property. We captured their face and then like their plate number and everything right away, and they turned into police, and they loved it, and they feel much safer with all the changes.
Guests are also enjoying major facility improvements and additional amenities on the property, as Lupe Gamboa of the Holiday Inn Express and Suites shared with us.
We have pancakes, we have a really big buffet. So I talk about my breakfast because they always tell us it's great because it's something different. Usually you always get something simple. We try to make it more fun so they enjoy their breakfast in the morning.
Both hotels are in the process of remodeling, including new carpeting and furniture to improve the comfort of their guests. For the Apple Inn, major improvements are being made to their suite rooms to accommodate guests staying for a longer period of time. What sorts of amenities are available in the suite?
Oven, and then like your cooktop, and then like over-the-counter microwave, refrigerator. We'll put like LVT floor in the kitchen side and then bathroom side with the new appliances in there too. So that's what we're going to be doing.
The new hotel licensing program requires these additional accommodations in order to house guests longer than 29 days. For hotel guests looking for more permanent housing solutions, the City of Wheat Ridge allocated $500,000 to Family Tree to help.
We worked with the city to put together a program that would provide resources that would help those individuals and families in those units locate, secure, and pay for a limited period of time new safe and stable housing, and then provide case management and other resources to those households to help stabilize them in those new living situations.
Guests looking for help finding safe and permanent housing solutions can call Family Tree directly at 303-467-2604 or visit their website, thefamilytree.org. Well, there's no easy fix for tackling crime and homelessness. The City of Wheat Ridge has taken a bold step, and we couldn't do it without the support of our City Council, responsible hotel operators, Family Tree, and our residents. For more information, please visit ci.wheatridge.co.us.
We're back in the Historic Depot Museum in Broomfield. We are in the kitchen. There is another historic place in this city. It is a farmhouse, and it serves as a gathering place for the entire community.
Broomfield's Bruner Farmhouse and Gardens is a heritage site located in the heart of the field open space near Midway and Maine. The farmhouse dates to 1908 and was the home of Dr. Clyde Bruner, who was the second mayor of Broomfield. He was also a veterinarian who treated his clients in the basement. Dr. Bruner was also a lover of flowers, and today his farmhouse is surrounded by 13 beautiful gardens maintained by Broomfield residents who share their love of beautiful gardens. Our volunteers commit to manage a garden for 1 year, and their names proudly appear on their garden. They are mentored by Broomfield master gardeners who help with design and training for best garden practices.
What a pleasure it is to be able to take care of this rose garden for the city and county of Broomfield. As a little girl, of course, my father was born on this property, and as a child, I not only played right where I'm standing, but also in the fields of wheat around us.
The mission of the Bruner Farmhouse and Gardens is to provide a gathering place for all to enjoy. We hold seasonal concerts on our back patio, along with special activities for children. We invite you to come walk through the gardens, have a picnic, or maybe a morning coffee. Please enjoy the beauty that comes from dedicated volunteers and a very special place in Broomfield history.
Very nice. We are back at the Broomfield Depot Museum at Shep's grave. Rest in peace, Shep. And coming up next, we go to Brighton for the newest art installation, Dancing High into the Sky.
The original name with this was Dancing Flames, because it had the motion of flames, I thought. Okay, we did a sculpture for Commerce City, and we had a few extra half-inch rods that we used for this.
Created with my dad, Jerry Jaramillo, and it was welded by both Eric Lopez and Danny Macias. We talked to the Cultural Council, and they decided it'd be a good idea to preserve it. It was rusting. We had it sandblasted and then powder coated. That's why we changed the name to Eternal Flame.
Well, this is dedicated to all the armed forces, but yet I have my grandfather and grandmother, my mom and dad, and my brother here, so it's for them and all my neighbors and friends that have been in this cemetery, so I dedicate this to all of them.
This is the Great Western Reservoir in Broomfield, built in the 1950s to serve the city. The history of water in Colorado is complicated, but we found the Littleton City Ditch, which has a big impact.
Hi, I'm City Manager Jim Becklenburg. Thanks for joining me for Around Town with Jim as we explore the places that make Littleton so special. There are few resources that are more important to life in the West than water. Today, let's have a look at a piece of Littleton's history that changed how our region got its water. And it's still working today, the City Ditch. The City Ditch is older than Littleton itself. It dates to the days of the Colorado Gold Rush. When it was completed in 1867, it was 4 feet deep, 6 feet across, and ran by gravity from what is now Chatfield Reservoir to the modern-day City Park in Denver. It still flows today, delivering irrigation water to users along the way in the same way it was designed and built 160 years ago. It is believed to be the oldest working relic from pioneer days in the Colorado Front Range that still works as it was designed. To understand why it was built, we need to understand what the Front Range looked like when the first gold seekers arrived. It was a hot, dry, dusty place with no shade. That's right, there wasn't a shade tree around. City boosters knew that they needed water to make sure trees would root, grow, and survive. The answer was to build an irrigation ditch to bring water from the Platte River uphill to the fledgling town. The Capital Hydraulic Company also planned to sell irrigation water to the farmers who could grow the food for all those folks to eat. This map from its 1860 stock certificate shows their ambitious plan to water at least 15 square miles in what is now the Littleton and Englewood area. There was no guarantee it would work. One of the important people in this story is Richard Little. Sound familiar? He was a college-educated civil engineer from New Hampshire who surveyed the route for the ditch. The irrigation experiment worked. Water from the main ditch fed smaller ditches on each side of every street in town, all flowing by gravity. 15 years later, the city had tree-lined streets. Notice the lower right corner of this 1880s street scene. On the edge of the street is a ditch with water in it, then a row of almost mature trees. Also, note the bridge over the ditch. The ditch also made it possible to create lakes in the dry prairie. In 1867, ditch diggers filled a depression in the ground which became Smith Lake, and later became Washington Park. The lakes in Denver City Park, created in 1880, were also filled with city ditch water. The planned irrigation farms in the Upper Valley proved so productive that Richard Little decided to build a water-powered flour mill to grind the grain. Called the Rough and Ready Mill, it turned land on his homestead into a valuable market center and economic engine. Little platted his homestead into lots in 1872 and called it Littleton. This map from 1917 shows the mill race on the west side of what is now South Santa Fe. East of the city ditch and south of Littleton Boulevard is the Fred Bemis Farm, where Ed Bemis, longtime editor of Littleton Independent, grew up. The Bemis farmhouse where he was born is now part of the 1890s exhibit at the Littleton Museum. The hardworking city ditch still delivers irrigation water to Hudson Gardens, the Littleton Cemetery, Geneva Lake north of Littleton Center, and is the prime source of drinking water for the Inglewood Municipal Water Utility. Wow, what an interesting story. Who'd have thought that that little creek that runs through our humble community is so critical to the history of the entire Denver region and Colorado? Thanks for joining me for this episode of Around Town with Jim. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks to the Broomfield Depot Museum for having us. We hope you enjoy our great outdoors and history. Join us next time on Connected Colorado.